Again, and welcome to Professional Insights, brought to you by the National Referral Network and hosted this week by me. This is where we share professional insights, wisdom, all kinds of stuff for the use of professionals who would watch this and try to, hey, learn a little bit. What do you say? Today, our guest is Dennis Parks. Dennis is a specialist in life settlements. I kind of know what life settlements are, but we're going to talk a little bit about what they are, where they're useful, and how people in need, in many cases, in need for additional money for additional things, can go and get it because they may have assets that they didn't know they had. And so anyway, Dennis, thanks for giving us a couple minutes. So can you briefly, like I'm three, explain to me what is a life settlement?
A life settlement basically is for someone who no longer needs a life insurance policy because maybe they can't afford it or they just no longer need it anymore. And any life insurance is an asset, so you take a look at selling that life policy and getting some cash for use whatever you want to use it for.
Okay. So someone may have an old life insurance policy that they don't need. They can actually sell it and do whatever they want with the money.
Yes.
Okay. And how big a marketplace exists for this kind of thing?
How does it exist? Or
How big a marketplace is there? I
oh,
mean, how likely is it? Can you just hang out a for sale sign on a life insurance policy and
um,
basically sell it?
you could if you knew about it. The
Well,
problem is, 95% of the people don't know that they can sell a life insurance policy, and the life insurance companies would much rather you either lapse the policy or surrender it and get basically nothing for it, and they just aren't aware that they could sell the policy. Um, there's 110 billion dollars worth of life insurance is lapsed or surrendered, each year, which is a lot of money.
that just lapse. It just goes away and nobody does anything with it. So are you saying that's 110 billion every year that's just left on the table?
Yes,
Holy cow! Wow. So
it's a huge market.
and this are the majority of these policies that could be sold?
Um, 90% probably.
Wow. So in other words, about $100 billion, if we're doing the math, just is left on the table and could be converted into cash.
Yes.
Okay. And who's out there buying these policies? What kind of firms buy them?
Mostly pension funds, some family offices.
Really?
We put it out to bid to, about 10 to 12 different outfits, and it's a bid, and we take the highest offer, and it's always, you know, 5 to 10 times more than a person could get by just surrendering the policy.
Wow. So so sometimes they'll get something. A policyholder may get something via surrender. They may get nothing if the policy lapses, or you're saying they could get 5 times that amount by just knowing about this.
Yes.
Wow. And what is a very common situation that you've seen where someone has done this, and how has that changed things for them?
Um, well, if you'd like a quick, example,
Sure.
um, I had a person last year that had a universal life policy, and the face amount was $1.5 million.
Ooh.
The person was 81. The cash surrender value was zero, and we sold the policy for $790,000.
That is a very, very interesting point because there are universal life. It can kind of be a problem, and anybody who's watching this, who maybe has a universal life policy, if you've had it for a long time, you may not be noticing that the cash value is either flatlining or maybe even in some cases receding because the cost of insurance internally is going up.
Right.
Something that's imperceptible to the policyholder very often because they don't pay any attention to it at all, until they get the premium notice sometime way later in life that, hey, you know what, your policy has no money in it, and now your premium isn't X, it's X times 10.
Correct.
Okay. And so you're saying they can offload that policy for a reasonable amount. Is that common?
Well, I can't say it's common because most people don't know it exists.
Okay.
Um, but 90% of the people that were interviewed a couple of years ago said that they, weren't aware there was a life settlement policy available, and they certainly would have done one had they known it was available. And trust me, the insurance companies are not going to suggest anything like this because 90% of life insurance policies don't pay. People get nothing for them. 90%. That's a huge number. Only
Yeah.
because the life insurance companies obviously, they don't want to pay. So if there's any way they can get out of paying, that's kind of what they do. They don't, send you a notice and say, hey, did you consider a life settlement? They don't want you to know about it.
But does the insurance company lose if somebody sells a policy?
Technically, yes, because the people buying the policy are going to collect the death benefit. And so, I mean, the
Right.
insurance company should have
Right.
realized to begin with, that if they insure somebody, um, they're hoping that, they don't pay off. I mean, that's where they get their money from. Like I said, 90% of life insurance policies don't pay off for whatever reason.
So the ideal candidate for this would be somebody who no longer has a need for the insurance, okay, is in reasonably good health and maybe older.
No, we want them, the poorer the health, the more money they get.
The poorer the health, the more money they get.
Yeah,
Oh, so
because
somebody,
the
okay,
pension funds are, you know, they expect 3 to 5 years that they're going to own the policy, and then the
okay.
person's going to die. And naturally, the sicker you are, the more money you're going to get because you aren't going to live as long.
So let me paint a picture here, just as an example. And again, I'm going to use an extreme example here, but let's say someone is 80 years old in failing health, don't have very much longer. They have, say, $1 million universal life policy. Unfortunately for them, it has very little or no cash value in it. Okay. What kind of numbers could they be looking at?
Now again, this is without some
Sure.
numbers, just as a
Right.
guess, but I'd say probably around 600,000-700,000.
So somebody, okay, so they're staring down the barrel at being unable to keep in force a policy that's gotten to the point where it's got no cash value in it, and now they have to pay a really, really large premium, which is another variable here. They can't afford it anymore. Okay. They can sell it and that can happen.
Yes. And 99% of the people that own a term life insurance policy do not renew it because, the premium goes up by 10 times. Once, if you had it for 20 years and the term is up and now you want to renew it, it's going to cost you 10 times as much to try and renew it. So naturally nobody does because they can't afford it.
So somebody who's in ill health and can't afford their life insurance any longer is really the ideal candidate for this.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, and they could be looking at, wow, okay. How active is this marketplace? I mean, are you out there having to spread this message to, how do, again, people don't know about this. How do they become aware of this?
Through advertising. You've probably seen some commercials
Yeah,
on TV from Coventry,
sure.
right? And that's what they do. They buy, life insurance policies, but they buy it, wholesale.
Okay.
They want to buy them wholesale, whereas, like I said, the people can get, 5 to 10 times as much money if they go to somebody like me or anyone that does this and they, shop the policy.
Now you mentioned that about, let's just say 100 million. Did you say 100 billion or 100 million?
Billion.
Billion with a B. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
lot.
100 billion gets left on the table every year. How many, I know this is difficult to quantify, but how many policy holders would you say that might be?
I had a statistic for that, but a couple 100,000 at least.
So there's a couple 100,000 people every year who don't know they could sell a life insurance policy and receive a whole lot more for it than they're ultimately probably going to get. And the reason this happens is they just don't know about it.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, I know about it now, and I'm glad I do. I've been aware of this for quite a while, but not necessarily of the details. So I thank you for sharing this with me. So again, to break it down, again, the ideal candidate for somebody for this is somebody who's older, maybe they're in ill health, can't afford their life insurance anymore. Maybe somebody who has a universal life policy with no cash in it. There are all kinds of candidates for this kind of thing. Even people with term policies that they can no longer afford who are in failing health are also candidates.
Absolutely.
So it seems to be that the determinant here, the larger determinant is not to be morbid about it, but somebody who maybe doesn't have that much longer. That's the ideal candidate.
Well, they're going to get the most money.
They're going to get the most money.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I really appreciate you sharing this with us this morning, Dennis. This has been really informative, I know, for me. Because this is put on by the National Referral Network, your job does not end simply when you get somebody a settlement, right? They may be coming to you saying, okay, now I've got this money coming in, and what now? Okay. And we always ask, how does your relationship with the network help you be a better professional?
Well, I have a bunch of other people that I can refer them to. Like, for example, I do not do assets under management.
Okay.
And, if they got money to work with, and in fact, a lot of times if they get a large enough settlement, they don't know what to do with the money. And if they're used to being in the stock market, that's what they want to do. So I
Right.
refer them to somebody else.
Or maybe it would make sense for them to pay off their home, maybe,
Correct?
or
Yeah, it's their money.
it's
Their
their money,
money. They do whatever they want with it.
or stash it away for long-term care needs, maybe. I'm sure that
Yes.
happens.
Yes.
Okay. Wow. That's fantastic. Well, Dennis, thank you very much. And we will, of course, be here next Tuesday morning, same time, same station, with another edition of Professional Insights. You can also find out more about the National Referral Network by either emailing us at info@nrnamerica.com or logging onto the website. Look at the benefits. You won't be sorry. And we will be back next week. Thank you once again, Dennis.
You're welcome.